solid areas of support for this. So now is the time where we're following it up with the full-blown thing. You know, people ask, because we're a membership-based organization, we do charge dues, but people ask where that money goes. We have absolutely no paid staff. We're all volunteers, so virtually all that money goes into outreach. And what we have done is we have utilized the polling data that we obtained to specifically target a lot of those areas to find the convinced. And so you're going to start seeing a whole lot more billboards, newspaper advertising, TV, radio. I mean, we're going whole hog because now is the time. Yes, ma'am.
I realize that this is the absolute worst case scenario, but Texas secedes. And the United States government is not going to let us go peacefully, right? Steve? What's your thought on that?
Pretty hard to say.
I disagree with that, and let me explain why. Because look, we game this scenario out a lot, and let me explain to you some things in our favor, because that seems to be the go-to for a lot of folks. Oh, you know, if we do this, they're going to invade us and they're going to crush us, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have a lot of fear about that because I've seen how FEMA distributes water. but let me.
With the drones.
Well, yeah, there's 26 million of us. They don't have that many drones. But let me just break it down. Here are the main factors that kind of lead that to not be a realistic scenario. First and foremost, there's a logistical problem. It's operational issues. Okay, you divide that further. Number one, there was a poll taken in 2009, 2010. Zogby actually did a poll over the issue of secession, and he did it specifically with active duty military. And what they found in that poll was that the military was split right up and down the middle, where half of them said that a state, any state, as long as it was done peacefully, had the absolute right for independence. If they wanted to secede, that's fine. So right now, go ahead and take half of your military capability off the table. Now, that's not to say there's going to be some people around there that will go ahead and follow orders regardless. But there is a strong Texas presence inside the military.
About half.
Well, it works out to be about 1 in 6, but a slightly higher percentage of, and a slightly higher percentage of active duty combat troops are from Texas. I mean, so we got a pretty big contingent there. But what I think is most interesting about that is that the states that have active sovereignty or outright secession movements are represented as the majority of the military. And I think that's also important. So you got to look at, do they have the capability for doing it? Now you got to look at the next situation, which is, do they have the do they have the will? And the fact of the matter is that they have sent the military, they've sent people that are members of this organization overseas to fight for the independence of other people.
Yep.
And so the question now becomes, does what is left of the United States have the will to see Texas carpet bombed? Well, I know if you polled that in the Northeast, I'm sure they would be quite in favor of it.
But what newspapers wanting that to happen.
Well, that's typical. But what happens is, start looking at it from the scenario of states or regions that are more closely aligned with us politically, culturally, and economically. At the moment that the federal government decided to initiate military force against Texas or any state that went to the polls peacefully, that attempted to go through the negotiation process to figure out how we're going to split up the china, the dishes, when the divorce happens, if all that is done correctly and done right, what will happen with those states if the United States tries to initiate military force on Texas? Guess what? They just pulled the string on the sweater and the whole thing fell apart. So I can tell you that they have gamed this thing out just like we have. And they understand that it is best to try to call people like us traitors and un-American and unpatriotic and try to kill the baby in the cradle rather than have to go ahead and let us go on the other end. So all of their viciousness is going to come right now. And I mean, it's coming now. I mean, that's fine. If that's the best they got, then so be it. But down that road, if you look at these countries over the last 30 and 40 years that have busted out from these separate unions, of course, the Soviet Union is the one everyone wants to look to, but there have been many other peaceful secession or independence movements